Happy New Day. Today's Friday. I can't believe how fast the weeks go. It's so crazy. So, yesterday was mine and my husband's second Bible study at the Catholic Church. And we went over the lessons from this past week. I shared a few with y'all just about the sower and the harvest. I shared that, and the lamp and the lampstand. And we also talked about the mustard seed. I can't remember if I shared a video about that, and the wicked tenants. And so we had an opportunity to go and just discuss that with the group. There's probably about 40 women. And it's so funny because after it was over, my husband's the only man there. And so, and all the women, I mean, they're older, which I'm 50, so I guess I'm with the over 50 crowd now. But he said he noticed that the women, even though they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, that they're like little children. They're like little girls. I thought that was cute that he recognized that. Because it's so true how we are like little children. I've come to see that through my own experiences and through like just working through a lot of my own personal deep wounding and things from my childhood. Like as we work on these things that are deep within us, that really keeps us arrested as little children and behaving as little children, and not in the good ways. But in like the temper tantrums and the fighting and the arguing and the just those types of ways, or just needing attention and needing to be seen and people pleasing, just all these different things that as children we learn to behave in those ways. It's just interesting if we don't work on those things and we're not self-aware and we don't take the time to overcome these things, we just behave those ways, and we are like little children, and we can at 60, 70, 80 years old act like little children. Now we have been told in the scriptures to become as a child, but not as a child who is needing to seek approval and who has to have things their way and has to be first in line and just needs all of these outer validation and everything. And so it's just important to look at ourselves to recognize these things. So I thought it was kind of cute. And my husband recognized that, because I do whenever I'm around people, and not that and I don't think of myself, I'm like better than anybody, or I don't, I don't see things in that way. I, I just see, I just see, and I'm not totally healed from all of my stuff. And so a lot of times I'm able to see something in another person, and I'm able to look at myself and I'm like, okay, where is that within me? Instead of judging outward, I look at myself, and because usually other people's behaviors, if it triggers us or if it brings up any thought at all, it's usually something within ourselves. And so I love that. I love that about being able to be around people and to be able to continue to learn about myself. I think that's one of the really great things about having community with people, because I have spent a few years in isolation and in solitude, just inward processing and just in that cocoon season. And, we could do a lot of growth. We can do a lot of self-improvement in that way, but the greatest way is with other people, being around other people, having other people rub us wrong or irritate us, trigger us, because it gives us opportunities to really look at ourselves and see, where am I not being like Christ? What's going on within me? And not point our fingers out at other people, but like truly reflect on ourselves. And so I really do love that about community, and being able to hear other people's perspectives about the same thing, like about these parables. It's been a lot of fun. So today's parable is about the wise men and the foolish men building their house upon the rock and the sand. So it comes from Matthew and from Luke. So I'm going to read each one because Matthew, you could tell that they were speaking to different audiences at different times. um, and so they kind of explain it, they kind of give a different story to the two different groups that they're speaking to. And we can gain understanding, deeper understanding, from each one individually. So I'm going to read both of them. So the first one is from Matthew chapter 7, and this is verse 24 to 27. So, and this is Jesus teaching the parable. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on rock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who builds his house on sand. The rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. And so then Luke chapter 6, verse 47, 49. So his description, his writing, he says, I will show you what someone is like who comes to me, hears my words, and acts on them. That one is like a man building a house who dug deeply and laid the foundation on rock. When a flood arose, the river burst against that house but could not shake it because it had been built well. It had been well built. But the one who hears and does not act is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. When the river burst against it, immediately it fell, and great was the ruin of that house. We can have an immediate, I don't know if anyone else can, we can have an immediate thought that it's like, oh, those foolish people, that they're not building their house upon a rock. It's like an outward, like, see the other people, like I'm so wise. I've built my house upon a rock. I've built my house on Jesus, and all of those poor foolish people out there. But we have to take his parables and bring it into our own life and look at our own life. Where in my life am I built on sand? We may, I'm sorry, my throat. We may, as Christians, think, and we do, as Christians, like, we want to build our house upon Christ. Like, we recognize that he is the rock, he is the foundation, he is the reason that we go to church. It should be. That's not ever why everyone goes to church, but that is the purpose of it, is Jesus Christ. And so, that is the hope, is that through these things that we do, that we're building our foundation upon him, upon his word, upon his teachings. But he's very clear. The one, like, they're receiving his words. It's the acting on it. Are we acting on his words? Are we being moved by his spirit? Because you have, one who is obedient and builds his house on the rock, and you have one who is obedient and goes and he digs deep and he lays his foundation upon that rock. He's not just building it on the ground. I mean, he digs deep. That takes effort. It's not just going to church, but are you mindful about it? Are you totally present in it? Or are you looking at your phone? Are you distracted in your thoughts? Are you thinking about your to-do list and your errands you have to run, or something going on at work? Are you thinking about how can I make money? Or, is your mind caught up in the world? Or are you there, present in the spirit, receiving personal guidance, receiving personal revelation for your life? Are you building your faith and strength in him, in his word? Are you, whenever you take the sacrament, receive the Eucharist, whenever you are taking him into your body, are you connecting with that? Or is it just, this is just what I do? I just take this because it's given to me and I'm just go about my day. I'm just not even there. I'm just, or is it, do you stop and do you breathe and do you really connect and recognize what it is that you're doing? Are you building that faith and that strength upon his rock and bringing him into you to guide you, to direct you, to move you? Or are you going through the motions and you're just building on this sandy foundation of people pleasing? Like, are you just going to church to please your parents, or to, because this is just the tradition that you've learned that you are supposed to do? How deep is it? How deep is your conversion to Christ? And it's not our conversion to a church. It's our conversion to Jesus Christ. I've been in my life converted to church and to serving in church and to go into church because that is what I was taught to go to church every single Sunday. Like, I don't miss church on Sunday. And I was taught to serve others, to give my life to others, to do, to perform, to do all these things. And yes, all of that is good, and we're commanded to do these things. But where is our heart? How deep how deep is our foundation, and why are we doing the things that we're doing? That's what we have to ask ourselves, is why am I doing this? Is it for God, because I want to please him, because I love him, because I want to strengthen my relationship with Jesus Christ? I want him to be everything to me. I want to talk about him, sing about him, praise him. He is my life. Or is it just going through the motions of this is just what I do, because this makes me a good person to do these things in the eyes of other people. Because that is being built upon sand. And when the storms come, which the storms are coming, the storms are here. I've had so many storms in my life. I mean, we all do. But we are living in the last days. We just are. Whether those last days are going to be like, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, we are still in, like, if you look at the history of this world, or the records that we have, from Adam and Eve and Noah and Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, if we look at the timeline of then Jesus came and he said he's coming again. If we look at that timeline and we look at the prophecies, we read the scriptures, we are living in those last days. We are living in those final minutes. And if our houses are not built upon Jesus Christ and his rock, I mean, he tells us what happens. He tells us what will happen if we are not doing as he says. We can't just be taking it in. We can't just be going to church and listening to the talks and listening to the sermons and taking the sacrament and the Eucharist and going to all of our service opportunities. We can't be doing these things and it's just keeping us busy and just doing, and think that that is going to save us whenever the floods come and whenever the tornadoes hit and when the hurricanes hit and the tsunamis. Did I say earthquakes? When all of the things happen, it will wash us away. We need to be built upon the rock of Jesus Christ. He makes it very clear that we need to not just hear, but we need to do. We need to be mindful. We need to be intentional. We need to dig deep intentionally to the rock. And it takes time. It takes effort. It takes sacrifice. I mean, we have to sacrifice things, other things, to make the time to sit with him. If we have to sacrifice watching movies or scrolling on our phones or even good things, there's a lot of good things that we can be doing. But if we put those good things above the best thing that we could possibly be doing, which is digging deep with Christ, digging deep into his word, sitting with him, meditating, listening to him, sitting in conversation, sitting and just being open to receive from him, to listen to him, to hear where he wants you to go, what he wants you to do. Because if we're just doing it our way, we have to be rooted and grounded in him and his spirit and let his spirit move us. Otherwise, we just take up a lot of our time doing things that is just really not important. But when we are moved by the Spirit, then even those things that we may judge as not important, you know, um, we can find the moments. We can see every moment as important. Going to the grocery store, we can be a vessel. There may be someone at that grocery store at that exact moment that you were there that needs your smile, that, you know, that needs something that only you can provide. And if we're living, being moved by the Spirit, and we allow the Spirit to take over, we will be exactly where we're supposed to be at exactly the right time. There's no hurry, there's no rush, there's no too early, there's no too late. It is perfect because we're in the Spirit, moving by the Spirit. And that is what happens when we are built upon His rock and we are being moved by Him. It really is amazing. And I'm not perfect at this in my life by any means. Like, as I sit here talking, I'm thinking of all these different things about myself. Like I see, that's the thing about it, is I see where I'm still have part of my house on sand. You know, it's so easy to look out and be like, oh, all these other people, but we have to look at ourselves. We have to look at where in my personal life, where in my house am I built on sand? Yesterday, I shared a video about pride. I recognize pride is sand. Pride, we will fall if we are built up on pride, if we are built up on our own ego and our own knowledge and ourself, we will fall. But if we are built upon Christ, and it takes time, it takes intention, it takes digging deeply within ourselves, rooting out, it takes it, digging up the sand so that we can get deep down into that rock. So where in your own personal life do you need to continue to dig deeper to get to that rock? I mean, truly, we all do. None of us are perfect in this. I mean, if we were perfect in it, we would not need Jesus teaching us these things. And the amazing thing about parables is that we can read them at different stages and different times in our lives, and we can get something different from it. So I'm going to share just some things that I highlighted in this book. It's the parables of Jesus. It's the study guide with the Catholic Bible study. So Jesus is telling his listeners that the one who hears and acts on his words will find security, while the one who hears but does not act on his words heads toward destruction. I can even look back in my own life and I can see times in my life where, I was raised in the gospel of Jesus Christ. Jesus has been a part of my life since I came into this world. I've always been taught about him. And so my parents, they gave me a foundation of Jesus. Like, that was given to me. And from the time that I was very young, I mean, I've just always learned about him. So he has always been in my heart. However, I have also had a lot of things within me, things that we're just given in this flesh, that there have been times where I heard it, but I did not act. I had the knowledge, but I did not act on the knowledge. And instead, I acted on the flesh, on my addictions, and on like those cravings, and turning to, instead of, when the storms came in my life, instead of just falling on my knees onto the rock, I instead leaned to my own understanding. I leaned to the understanding of man, and man's ways, which is, a lot of drugs and alcohol and just ways of coping that are just very unhealthy. And, you know, and at the same time, I can look back and I can see that I've never let go of my faith in Jesus Christ. And I can see that during those seasons that I learned a lot. I can look back over my life and I can see the things that I have learned, and that it's all very purposeful because it's brought me to where I am today, to be able to understand and to connect with people who are still in addiction and who are suffering with mental illness. But I can see that whenever I would experience my own addictions or the addictions of other people, and I felt as though my house fell, that my house was falling apart, I can look back and I can recognize and I can see that whenever I would hit my lowest points, that the deepest, darkest points, that there was always Christ, that my foundation was always on Him. That after all of the ways that I was trying to fix things or cope with things or do things or not do things, that when I hit my rock bottoms, I was there with Christ. And then I was like, okay, what is going on? And I had Him holding me and helping me to recognize what I was doing, how I had some sandy foundation that needed to be dug up. And I'm so grateful for that my parents, that they laid that foundation under me so that whenever I, in my own weaknesses and in my own lack, that whenever I would fall, that he has always been there. And I am so grateful for that. And it saddens me to know that there are so many people in this world who are at these rock bottoms, and there is no rock. That they're just digging, digging, digging. But the thought just came to me that Jesus Christ is the rock. He is the rock bottom. And some people's bottoms are just so, so deep. And it takes a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of addiction, a lot of mental illness, a lot of painful things in this life, many times, to bring people to that rock that is Jesus Christ. And it's usually in those places that people are the most humble because they realize that they themselves cannot do anything. And that usually people in their lives have abandoned them and have left them, have given up on them, and all that is left is Christ. And I'm so grateful that my bottoms have not been as deep as other people's, that because I have that foundation, that as I have dug and dug and dug, that He is there. Yeah, I've never thought of it that way until it just came out. Um, let's see what else. Matthew's version of the parable focuses on two different building sites, one with a foundation of bedrock, the other with a base of shifting sand. Certainly, the house built on rock is more secure. A house constructed on a foundation of sand tends to shift and sink over time and would be particularly vulnerable in a flood. Luke's version describes two different building methods. The secure house is the one with a foundation that is dug deeply down to the rock. The house that is simply built over the ground without a deep foundation is subject to the destructive floodwaters. So you could just see how important it is for us to build, to dig deep to that rock, to build upon that foundation of bedrock. Because life is hard. Life is challenging. We all have storms of different kinds, and we need to be built upon Him so that whenever the earthquakes come and we are shaking and we turn to Him, we know that it's in Him that we find peace, and because He is the peacemaker. So the language of storms and floods is used throughout Scripture as a metaphor of divine testing and judgment. And we have all been tested. We've all experienced it. We just have. And I'm just so grateful that I have Him as my foundation. So the point of this analogy with the wise and foolish builders is that our security is found not only in hearing the teachings of Jesus, but also doing them. Not just learning about things that sound good and that are true, but incorporating them, doing the actions, making it a part of who we are. Although no one with any intelligence would build a house on sand or without any foundation, those who fail to put into practice what Jesus teaches about God's kingdom are just as foolish. Those who are wise are the ones who build their lives on divine values as expressed in the Torah and the good news of God's kingdom. So just think about that. Just because we are Christian, those of you who are, and we go to church and we do all the things and we get all the little check marks, just because we're doing all these things does not mean that we are built upon that foundation. It does not mean that we have dug deep to get to that rock. No one can do it for us. It's something that we have to do ourselves. I am very grateful that I do have parents that taught me about Jesus Christ, that made Him a thing in my life that I learned about, and that as I have experienced so many storms in my life, and I have been alone through so many storms, that I only had Him to turn to. And through those experiences, it has just strengthened and deepened my conversion to Jesus Christ, to know that He is my rock. He is my salvation. He is the grace that runs through me, that He is the gratitude that I feel. He's the love. He is everything. And I'm so grateful that He is making me bold for Him, that because He is all that matters, truly, truly. And when we give our lives to Him, He makes our lives He makes our life. I love it. He makes our house strong, that where we can withstand the things that come into it, because life is not easy. It's not. I have storms that surround me all the time, but I'm just so grateful that my house is built upon His rock. Until next time.